I can see you.
Okay, let's start the video. Nice, there you are. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Thank you.
You're looking good. I love that flag.
Thank you. I appreciate the flag. It's pretty awesome.
So I've been thinking a little bit about since our talk, and for the new people coming on tonight and for the people watching this, we'd like to welcome you to Spirit Warriors Live, and I'm Bryan Michaels, and my co-host tonight is Michael DiGiacinto, and sometimes I have a little trouble with my pronunciation. So, and I started this show because there's a lot of information out there now, and it's really hard to discern what's real and what isn't. And you will understand after we talk a little bit tonight that we are not in an information war necessarily. We are in a disinformation war. Not a kinetic war. It's not even a digital war. It's a spiritual war. It's a war for the souls of the planet. And I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I may be right or wrong, but we need leaders, not more information now, to teach you how to discern information, digest it, and also how to open up and uncover the part of your spirit that ultimately helps you use your intuition to be the final arbiter and discerner of the information that you're getting. Because no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you study, no matter how many videos you look at, ultimately there is only going to be a decision at the end that has incomplete information. And so where do you go? What do you trust? Do you trust a man? Do you trust a book? Do you trust an experiment? Do you trust a scientific paper? You can't trust any of that stuff here on this planet, on planet Earth. My belief is that you have to trust that little spark of the spirit inside. And unfortunately, we've never been taught in school or even outside of school in a formal way how to uncover that spirit. And it's my belief also that that spirit is covered by different things. One is people are constantly giving us disinformation, planting pictures and ideas in our mind, and then they give us evidence, and the evidence may or may not be real. And sometimes we look at it so quickly, we just assume it's real because it confirms an opinion that they planted in our mind way back. And so, and then also we're all animals. We're spirits in an animal body. And that spirit very often is driven by primal drives like fear, scarcity, greed, our sex drive. And so outside forces can use those drives to trigger emotions in us and distract us from the information that they're feeding us. And it can slip into our minds without us realizing it. And then we accept it as true. And this has been going on for a very long time on this planet. And it's led us to have certain ingrained beliefs that may not be true. And I'm not trying to question anybody's beliefs systems here. People can be tied to their beliefs for a whole bunch of different reasons. However, I feel like my job is to teach you the tools necessary to go out into the world and uncover that spirit that will give you the tools to discern the information using that spirit so that you have the answers. And once you can do that, you can actually connect up here to the collective consciousness of the universe, which is our collective Wi-Fi. And you connect in with your Bluetooth, and you connect into that collective consciousness, and that will automatically give you the answers you need. But if you have your spirit covered up by these egoic things, by these primal drives, by being emotionally triggered and angry, or lashing out at one another, you're never going to see or connect to that spirit and be able to be guided by what Michael and I talked about today, which is your intuition, that manna from heaven, that moment to moment, you get what you need automatically feeling. That improvisational musicians really know. And people who appreciate music, who have ever gone to a jam session or a jazz music session, appreciate that there's those spiritual moments in that music session that they're just divine. And that is the way we were meant to live on this planet, to connect together in that divine way for a common cause. But all too much, there are forces on this planet that are at the top of the pyramid that know that and divide us to conquer us and use us, if that makes sense. Now, I'd like, Michael, can you comment a little bit like about what we talked about earlier today? And we can get into like the specifics of what's going on, what's disinformation, what's not. But before we do, I want you to talk about a little bit about that divine connection you felt as a musician that we talked about today.
I'd be happy to. It's one of the joys in life is connecting to that moment when you're just tapped in and can create, but when you're able to share it with other people, it becomes amplified in a way that is it's spiritual and it's outstanding. But the best part is usually that happens in front of an audience. So not only are the musicians who are creating that moment happening, are they sharing amongst themselves, they're sharing with an audience, there's an energy exchange, but everything's in the moment. And it's a gift from some place outside of you that you allow in because you're open to it. And it
I've
makes it,
experienced that, in concerts. I'm not a musician, but I've experienced that feeling going to different shows. It's almost a divine feeling, and it feels the same as connecting to that spirit to me.
it's magic. It's just pure magic. And to turn it back quickly to, today's current events without getting into any specifics is whether I'm playing music or I'm creating a piece of artwork or I'm in the middle of some kind of networking situation where I have to bring people together of some way, I tap into that spirit as much as I can, because I'm a person with feelings that's living in the now, and I'm also distracted by life. If you actually can remove yourself just a bit from that, you can tap into the spirit and then let things flow a little bit. And in this situation we have now, I've treated the last year as an adventure, as a spiritual adventure, and letting the day by day just unfold in front of me. And then I just try to see what's happening, take in the information at the moment, and then improvise around that to see if we can get the dialogue going and get people talking. Because I think you and I agree that we have more questions than answers at the moment. And the closer we got to the end of this ride at the moment, which we think is, this is just maybe an end of a chapter into a beginning, there's a lot there. And that's the way I'm seeing it.
And I see my job with this show and what we're doing here, this spiritual boot camp of sorts for people, as a way to help people not always necessarily get the information, but for us to teach you the tools to not lead, for us to lead you out of the cave, but for you to lead yourself out of the cave. And so we're going to give you drills eventually for you to get the skills. But right now, our job is really to get you to understand that there's a lot of things going on out there, and some may be true, some may be not, but we live in an information age that's so vast, and it's digital. And so things could be faked, could be copied, could be made to look like one thing when they're another. And I wanted to bring on some pictures to demonstrate that tonight, but on the next show I promise. And by the end of this show, we're actually going to give you the website addresses for a couple of websites where you can go, and there are information warriors out there that I'm already very well acquainted with that are excellent. Now, they source information from inside intelligence sources that will give you and help you get information, but ultimately you have to take the information from what it is. Most of their sources are anonymous. And so they don't always have, in my opinion, the most accurate or up-to-date information, but they have a general idea of what's going on. And so if you check in with their websites, you're going to get a lot more good information than what's coming from the mainstream media, but it may not always be spoon-fed to you. And unfortunately, we've been used to having the information spoon-fed to us while we tend to our selfish lives. And that has led to our downfall. And now going forward, in order to soar as spiritual beings, we're going to have to discern and demonstrate congruence with the information that's given to us, both logically, psychologically, and spiritually. And so you need all three tools in order to get it right. Because when you access that spiritual plane up here, you not only use your logic and intelligence, you get to connect into a collective consciousness and intelligence that goes across the whole planet. And then we can be all singing from the same song sheet, or playing lead guitar in Van Halen. Will be not just double lead guitars, but we'll be like, billion lead guitars playing together, all playing the same notes, the same harmonies, and we're not missing any notes together. And we can defeat this enemy. And the enemy, don't get me wrong, but this enemy is an enemy that's, they're here for our spirits. They're here for our souls. They're using us. They're not here to take our stuff. They're here to take our spirits and our souls. And if we don't let them do that, they can't win. They could never win. Even if they took over our land, even if they put us in jail, they could never win if you can connect into that spirit. So I feel like it's my duty and job, because I've had an epiphany over the last year connecting to my spirit, to teach you how I did it in a way that allows you to come out of the cave you're in informationally and spiritually on your own, in your own time. And so there'll be exercises posted on my YouTube channel periodically, and we will discuss this stuff. But I don't like and right or wrong, Michael, you can answer this too, but giving out specific details of the day-to-day news and mentioning things, giving you the information to jump around on, I don't really, you can find it and we'll give you the websites to go look at it yourself, but I don't want to spoon feed you information. I want you to learn how we decide, how we feel it, how we follow that spirit to understand what's right and what's wrong. And it's a different answer sometimes for everybody. But if you don't stop, if you just look at the pictures that they spoon feed you on any news channel, if you look at the information that they spoon feed you without stopping to question it and then feel it and notice where you feel that and whether it's true or not, you're going to make mistakes going forward here. And it's not going to be good for anybody, for us collectively, for our freedom. And so I'll hand it off to Michael to comment on that. What do you think?
There's a lot of ways to go about getting information in so that you can absorb it and decide for yourself what's what. One thing that comes to mind, I got into Instagram about 5 years ago, and it was, I'm a visual guy. I like music, all that kind of stuff. So I realized that I'm the curator of my feed. So if I go looking for my favorite stuff, I can make that just flow all day long as I scroll. So you take a few minutes break here and there, you look at it. It's just all awesome stuff, whether it's an inspirational person, a guy who's killing it at sales, and he's telling you what to do, or you have, different architecture and different painters. I'm seeing everything that I want to see in a certain way. But you could take that process and you could apply it to getting information in a way right now where it's not, you can't turn on the news anymore and expect that to be true. And that goes for, in my opinion, Democrats and Republicans at this point are kind of full of it. All of them. Maybe there's a couple of each here you could put together and make a team of people you think are kind of honest. But if you go into your feed and you bring in some really stuff that inspires you and people that you could think you could trust, all of a sudden you get a whole set of information where you think it's pretty legit, but you still have to go through it and you have to look at it yourself and say, well, this is good and this is good, but you got to verify and you have to go back and check. And you were talking about, things that could be faked. Like right off the bat, in the beginning of this year, I got suckered into some tweets that I thought were real. It looks real. You go to the page, you see it's exactly the same heading and title, and it looks real. But now I go through the dates, and I'm like in November 3rd of last year, and there's no tweet. Did they erase it or did it exist? I don't know. There's no way to tell. So you have to do your best to find verified sources and do it yourself. And I gotta think, and I gotta be the one to
For
do
a lot of people, it's already up here, and they've made a decision about that information, and it's locked up here, consciously and subconsciously, right? Like not for you, but if you are busy with your day, trying to survive, trying to get a piece of bread in the back of the cave, you're just going to assume it's true, right?
Well, before I would have said that, but then when things got too important, I don't assume anything anymore. I don't assume anything.
I think that's the rule of thumb here is A, don't take anything for granted. Don't assume anything is true or not true. And don't let your filters of your beliefs and criteria as a Democrat or Republican, even a male or a female, or what color skin you have, don't let that filter your perceptions of what's going on, because that sets you up to be used by people and abused, and it also covers your spirit up, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, nothing is more important that I've experienced right now, besides having my daughter, than what's going on right now. And, some people will scoff and laugh at you and say, oh, it's not that bad. Or listen, we know that communism is coming from all over the world. This globalist thing is happening. It's about control. It's not about helping people. They don't help anybody except themselves. And again, it's not one party or the other. It's all of them. And we don't know who's who, because what do they say? The wolf in sheep's clothing, and there's all these different false flags everywhere. And I can go on and on and on about specifics, but the specifics don't really matter right now. We got to just talk about it as a process so that we can, everyone's got to create their own. I have mine, and it seems to work very well for me because I just feel comfortable at the end of the day that I did the best I could. I've sorted it out, put it through the sieve, and I know what I got. And then tomorrow, if I'm wrong, I'm not afraid to say it. Listen, I got that one wrong. Today's a new day, whatever.
And what I wanted to ask about too is, we got into this and it's heated a little bit, but there's some, and we don't want to get into graphic details, but there's been some Hunter Biden stuff released on a website that's particularly sickening and disgusting. And that has to do with child molestation. And I feel like we will post or get you somehow the link to look at that yourself. But I think I haven't seen it myself. But Michael, you've briefly seen the site, and you've looked at some of the pictures. And I really wanted to get some pictures here. You'll see some on my promo of some fake pictures, and some of them look really fake, and some of them don't look so fake. And so there's all kinds of ways to fake digital stuff. And they found a video on John McCain's laptop, which he accidentally left somewhere, which showed basically people rehearsing for the execution of Michael Pearl way back during the Iraq War. Daniel Pearl, when morale was flagging in that war and they needed to get more funding out of Congress and change the will of the people here. That's when that video was dated. And so even John McCain could be, and you may call me a conspiracy theorist, but everything created in this world started with an idea, an image in the mind, and then it was created, even conspiracies. So every conspiracy, true conspiracy, starts with a theory. And when you start seeing facts that match up with the theory, which we are over and over again with the election, with these videos coming out, with stories we've heard for years, with all kinds of we're getting bombarded with disinformation right now coming out of the mainstream media, to the point where many people, I mean, do you watch mainstream media anymore, Michael?
I do once in a while just to verify how ridiculous it is.
I do too. It scares me a little because I know they can use languaging patterns and images that persuade you, and they're unbeatable. So the more you watch those particular news channels, and they're curating their news, understand that there's about 6 people in the world that are writing the news at the top and then providing it to these news agencies. So I think there's the biggest one is like AP, the second biggest one is Gannett, but all the stories start from a top-down source. And so it might only be a handful of people that are writing the narratives, and then they get passed down and are sung on the song sheet. So these people at the mainstream media, they're not hound dogging the news out. They're not beagles sniffing out a bone. They're getting spoon fed, and then they're spoon feeding to you. So, and you always have to ask yourself, if they're trying to make me feel a certain way, when they read the news, if I feel angry, if I feel triggered, there's a reason for that. They're using that to lead you around, because that's how we get led around in our lives. They gaslight us. They cater to our desires. That's the way the enemy works. That's the way Satan works. And so we have to be careful of, again, the information we take in. And the people in the mainstream media are experts at creating a narrative. And so I would suggest that everybody go to some of the websites that we mentioned and see the counter narrative. Now, it may be confusing because you're going to want a definite answer, which is what the mainstream media gives you, but it's never as clear as that. Understand that it never, ever, ever is as clear as that. And so you have to go out and do the work, do the homework yourself in order to make the decision. We're not here to tell you that there's an intelligence site called, it's the 17th letter of the alphabet, and it's anonymous. So, and this website, without getting into that, has been dropping intelligence, most of which has come true in some way, shape, or form since 2017. And that there's a book out which was written by an author called Killing the Less Than Superficial State. And so if you refer to the author of Less Than Superficial State Killing, then you'll understand that he has done a lot of research and provided it, but it's been ignored by the mainstream media. And when you read the book, or if you Google the author of Killing the Less Than Superficial State, then you'll understand rapidly that there is an agency that starts with some alphabet letters. And the first one, the first letter is Charlie, and it shows that there is. This is funny, but this is the way we have to talk here. So, and it shows that this agency is actually, and you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm a scientist and I'm a surgeon, and it took me 20 years to get where I could lay my hands on people. And so I've been through a lot of school, and I have all the book knowledge of the physical world. There's no doubt about that. And this is not a totally physical problem. It's psychological and mental. And we're in what they call an SI op that's being run on us and has been run on us for a long time. And right now there's a counter SI op that's being run by a certain portion of the government to try to pull us out of this. And, I see myself, not officially, but as part of that SIOP, to try to teach you the drills and skills you need to find your way out of the cave. I mean, do you think that's worth it, Michael, to help them find their way to freedom, or find their way to an understanding that gets them somewhere up here at some point?
We have to just rely on our instinct and our gut as we're processing information to tell us, is it acceptable, or is there something that we should ask more questions? And that has been my guide in this, in a way that is profound. And I took it from just simply, I want to go research more, to, well, let me ask everybody publicly what they think of this topic, because I know there's ideological and political, even spiritual, religious ways people think about things, and let that guide them instead of just their own instinct and their gut. So if we removed all the other stuff and you're just left your naked soul to look at the information, what do you got? And that's how I try to do it. And that seems like where you're trying to lead the conversation, is that it's an indefinite amount of information that's coming, and a lot of it is not real. It's psyop, and it's weird, because if you look at it after you've taken your own time in research, it's bizarre, because any channel you turn on is saying the same shit, and it doesn't match what the real story is. You can make it look like anything you want. The movie Wag the Dog was fantastic. I mean, they made up a whole entire war that was in a movie theater, and they put it out to the public as if it was real. I mean, it's like, and I think, are they doing that to us now? I think they are. I mean, I think I do.
I think they are too. I believe they are. I don't think, I believe, and I can see that more and more people are starting to believe that. And so that gets me to the subject for tonight, which was congruence. And congruence is really a term, it's a psychological term that means that, and it's based really, to start with, on our five senses. Like, so when somebody approaches you, are they congruent in terms of what they're saying, what's coming out of their mouth, in their body language, or what their actions are? And so we have to look. We've gotten away from, as a planet, we see our politicians really as almost actors on a screen, which I believe they are, to be honest with you, many times. And they're playing a part in a bigger operation that's designed to use us and keep us paying tribute to a crown that we don't even know about at the top of a pyramid. And we've been doing that for somewhere around 12 to 1400 years here. And we thought we got our freedom from the crown in 1776, but they vowed, and they had a 200-year plan to take back the New World. And in 1871, after the Civil War, when America was broke, they signed a treaty. And you can find out about this at some of the other websites that I'll post on our YouTube page in the chat section. Just below the chat, you'll see the links to go to these sites. Some of them you may not be able to go to, so you can DM me, or I'll try to post them on Facebook, but some of them are banned now from you seeing them. But anyway, what happened in 1871 was the central banks of the world agreed to lend us money, but they didn't really lend us money. They said they lent us money backed with gold, and so, but they wanted collateral. And so as collateral, they wanted the United States, and they wanted not just the United States, but the people of the United States. And so what was done through an act of Congress was to form a separate corporation called the U.S. Corporation, which is a private corporation governed by international maritime business law. And they seated all our politicians in this corporation. And you can go and look all this stuff up. It's not fantasy. It may be getting pulled down rapidly, but you can find it. And in that corporation, it allowed the politicians to create agencies and programs and kickback schemes that they all participate in that are not constitutional. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, have you heard about this at all? I'm curious, because we haven't talked about this.
Yeah, in the year-long journey, I've come across it a couple of times, and I actually have one friend who, some might say, wears a tinfoil hat. He's very passionate about what he knows, and he's maybe a little bit like a barking dog, where if you don't subscribe to his thinking, he yells at you and calls you like stupid. But I've heard about this stuff for a while, and I looked it up, and wow, it's there. You know, gosh darn, we're not the constitutional republic we thought we were. We're not free. We're not on our own. There's other people pulling the strings, and that's not right. And it's something of big scale has to have happened in order to change that. And I think we could be at that moment, but there's a lot of people resisting it, and it's because they don't know. If people really knew what was going on, I don't think that they would resist it. But there's no way that the mainstream media is going to, in any way, shape, or form, tell them that, because they're all being paid by the same people that are running and owning our country and the world. So I think it's time just to put up or shut up. Let's just push back as hard as we can and make it go away and fight it, and at all costs.
Absolutely. And I don't have any cash on me, or else I'd flash a dollar bill up here. I don't know if you have one. I have my wallet, but I don't know if I have a dollar in there. But you can think of, can you show the pyramid on the dollar? Is it on?
Tissue.
Oh, okay. So the reason why I wanted to show that is there's a pyramid on the dollar bill with an eye at the top. And that pyramid you can think of as the pyramid scheme that's been run on the world for the last 1,200 years. At the top of that pyramid were 12 to 13 families that controlled all the wealth in the world. This is going to seem fantastical for some of you. So I'm going to share this with you, but I want you to go out and do your own research. This family lent money to all the countries in the world, and they basically, to the United States, formed 3 of our central banks. The Fed is not a US-owned institution. It was a private institution until Donald Trump took it back into the US government back in May, I think. And that was right around when all that was going on in Italy with COVID. Do you remember that? Does that ring a bell?
Mm-hmm.
So at the same time, our US special forces were going into Europe and taking down the heads of all those families under the cover of the COVID lockdown in Europe. Now, some of you are going to say, I never heard of that. Well, I don't blame you for being skeptical, but you're going to hear about this stuff that's been going down behind the scenes, behind your back. And I believe it. And I believe it because I've gotten it from multiple sources, not only people that are in the know, but people that are on YouTube and stuff. So, and I've looked at it from a lot of different angles, and I feel it in here because I trust my intuition.
Let me interject for a second there. I was very skeptical maybe a year ago. I was making my art and was my profession and my little design projects and trying to make my clients happy and trying to put some bread on my table, you know, that kind of thing. And I knew things were happening outside that were out of my control, but it wasn't, nothing was that bad. We didn't have lockdowns. We just were able to go do our work, and we didn't feel like, communism and censorship was coming down on our face all day. So I was just going about it. But as soon as it did, and I started questioning things and I got that feeling in my gut, I just had to say, wait a second, what's going on? And to me, right now, we have different segments of our population that are believing it, not believing it. Again, it's not political party at this point anymore, because I walked away, #walk away, from the Republican Party like 12 years ago. I have a lot of friends right now who walked away from the Democrat Party. I have some friends who never voted because they don't believe in any of it. And they all voted this year one way or the other. Some ran away from Donald Trump. Some ran away from the Democratic Party. Some said, I keep having to vote for lesser of two evils, but wait a second. There's stuff going on that's beyond my control now. And now they're making me do things that I don't feel comfortable with. I might say this virus is real, but I also might say it shouldn't run my life. They might say, I want to be able to speak my mind, but now you're telling me I'm not allowed. I'm going to be called different names because I'm just saying what I feel. I'm a good human. I don't do bad things, but I can't even say what's going on. So all those things add up to, we should be asking more questions. So when we start looking deeper into what's really happening, it's not just what you're being told on the media. People think that we're jerks and we're just trying to cause trouble or putting an agenda, or we love Donald Trump so much we'll lie to everybody. I could tell people, I've been called a liar so many times this year. Go back every damn post that I put up and tell me where I'm a liar. And if you could prove to me I am, I'll admit it. But I don't think you're going to find many places if I ever was. And on the couple that I know I did, I went back and said, hey, edit on top, or sometimes I just totally take it down. I've been duped a few times. I put up stuff that looked good, and you said it before. Sometimes you got something in your head, and then you see something, and that looks real, so you go, okay, let me share it. You got to be careful. You can't do that. But we want to get it right, and we want to be truthful, and that's the only way we're going to break down the system of 6 people owning the world.
And I think as part of being a veteran spirit warrior, Michael, that you've learned your lessons over the last year, kind of wading through this swamp of information that pops up, that some of it's a projection that's not real, some of it's a shadow, some of it's dust, and some of it's an enigma. And you've put it back out there and gotten burned. And then you've learned to be more cautious about going through there. And I think one of the first things that I think is when I read something, if I feel it like in my gut, like emotional reaction, like a negative one, instead of it, or if I feel like really like, oh, that confirms what I believed already, those are the 2 worst positions to be in. Because if it confirms something that you already believed inside, then you're just going to look at it and move on. And you're not going to see if there's any incongruency, if it's imbalanced in any way. You're not going to examine it well. So when you see that, one of the things I suggest that people do is try to discover and look at the information and do it critically, as if you were someone who was a skeptic, if you're not a skeptic. And if you look at it and you immediately dismiss it, I suggest that you stop, drop, and look at it from the standpoint of somebody who totally accepts it. And like, does this confirm my belief or does it not? Or does it, you know what I mean? And then see how that makes you feel inside. If it makes you feel a little iffy, like today I was telling you, Michael, I heard some information today about, well, I heard all kinds of information today. Somebody was talking about Russia and China moving in here. And my information tells me that Russia and China are standing down. And I've known that for a while. Although the virus did come from China, they have similar deep state actors in China. And my information is telling me that there's 22 countries involved in this takedown operation, including Italy. And my information also tells me that someone like Nancy Pelosi could be a white hat in all this. And then when I go back and I start to think about the day she ripped up the president's State of the Union address, and I think about how dramatic and over the top that was, and I've heard how this, and I don't want to use the word that starts with a C and ends with an AL, because that may get picked up by some of the censorship tools that are on here on this platform. But the top of the pyramid that we talked about, that eye, if that eye was watching her, they've been extorting some of our politicians that didn't want to play ball. And so once they get into the political realm and win office, they can blackmail and extort these people and force them. And you'll understand when you learn more about this, that this operation that I talked to you about, this 22 nation operation to take down and lop the eye out, to poke the eye out of that pyramid that's been exploiting us. And by the way, I'm going to open this loop. Does anybody know what $1 quadrillion is? A quadrillion, 1 quadrillion. Do you know what that is, Michael? How much does that equal?
A lot.
Quadrillion. So,
I have no reference to that.
So a quadrillion is 1,000 trillion. Currently, our debt.
I could never count that high in my lifetime.
Me either. I was never really super at math, but I learned this over the course of time. So in a quadrillion, there's 1,000 trillion, and in a trillion, there's 1,000 billion, and in a billion, there's 1,000 million. Think about that. Okay, get that number, the vastness of it, like our world vastness in your brain, that number. And what I'm told is this top of the pyramid controlled 25 quadrillion dollars in assets, and a good portion of that has already been confiscated for the world. And I know at least 500 trillion was confiscated from the Vatican Bank during this Vatican takedown operation. And that leads to some other questions and answers that you're going to have, but people may or may not believe that the Pope was taken down. Now, I think what we're seeing right now in some respects may be a movie, because the people that are leading right now in our government are PSYOP specialists too. And so they're projecting what may have already happened. They may have taken down, not may have, I know they have taken down a lot of these players during the COVID crisis, and they've disappeared. And I almost suspect that the COVID crisis, as a scientist, I know that masks, wearing a panty on your face doesn't do anything to stop a virus. And it may even hurt you by, I can't wear them because it restricts my airflow and it makes my eyes water. I wear them in surgery, but only for a finite period of time. And the vaccine doesn't make sense to me scientifically. The fact
Wait a
that we're
second.
down doesn't make
Didn't you
sense.
have something to do with vaccine research at some point?
I did for about 3
So,
years. I did vaccine research and helped develop the it's called the Haemophilus influenza type B vaccine.
so
Which
you're
is
not talking just as somebody who thinks they know something. You actually were part of that system at some point for 3 years.
I studied immunology. I had, I was a few credits short of an undergraduate minor in immunology and biochemistry. So I, and I graduated with a degree in chemistry and a minor in biomedical engineering as well. So I had, I have extensive scientific background. I know how to read scientific articles for authenticity, and no scientific article is perfect.
Let me interject there too. We've talked about a lot of things, and we'll talk about a lot more things. But to me, is sometimes we have to prove a case, but sometimes the other side of the argument should have to counter-prove their case. It's not just let me say, hey, you did this. You say, all right, let me prove to you I did. The other side just say, hey, let me prove to you what's right. So with the mask topic, I mean, I have people that are very dear to me that would be very offended if I said I don't think masks work. But I saw a video the other day of a Dancing with the Stars outdoors. It was in Spain or somewhere, and it was cold out, and the people are dancing, and the video is catching their breath come right out of the mask, right into the other person's face. So, and it's just these fabric masks. These are not anything that's going to protect from that breath to come out. So if water vapor can go right through the mask into the other person's face while they're dancing and it's on camera, then, hey, I just feel like it's something at least questioned. So then the science should say, hey, let's show you why it does work if it does. Let me prove to you that frozen water vapor you're seeing isn't really able to contain it. So all we keep getting is, no, you're wrong. The masks work. You have to wear it. Well, please show me if I saw that, which I saw with my own eyes, and I watched it in slow motion so I can really see it. Prove to me, please, that you're telling me something that we all have to do now for the rest of our lives, it sounds like, because that's what you want us to do. But maybe it's not the right thing. And if it's not the right thing, then let's go back to a different way.
But you have to admit that there's a lot of incongruency, right? It doesn't make logical common sense, right? And then even you have some doctors that say it doesn't make sense. Unless you have a perfect seal and an N95 mask, it's never going to prevent those water droplets from getting out the sides or going through a cloth mask. And as a surgeon, we use spacesuits in the operating room when we do joint replacements so that we don't cough or breathe into the joint is a sterile space when we do that case. And infections are a disaster. And so we generally use spacesuits that are completely sealed and filtered to do that. Now, in order to prevent this virus from transmitting, you would have to literally do that. And so you start to have to ask yourself, with so much competing information on whether, we're never going to know the answer. And so you got to go into your heart and see if it makes sense spiritually. And then the other thing you have to do is stop and ask yourself a question. Suppose for a moment that these masks didn't work. Suppose for a moment that this, as the scientific studies are bearing out at this point, is a 99.9% survivable condition, you know, give or take some people who are older, maybe that have some comorbidities that are a little bit higher risk for a bad outcome. Assuming that, suppose that for a minute, what would the reason be that people would be trying to sell us a bill of goods on this, to keep us locked down, to keep us quiet? Could it be that the administration, in running this operation to take down the top of the pyramid, which they have, and I know, and you know, there was a blackout there. I believe that blackout was really a movie for us to see, because I believe that the people in the Vatican were taken out back in April. But if, suppose for a minute that I'm right, and I may not be, I may be right, I may be wrong, but suppose for a minute I'm right, why would this incongruency of this masks and these incongruent lockdowns and politicians demanding this, why would it be? Maybe it's because of this operation to take down these people who have been bleeding us and extorting us. And maybe some of the politicians on both the Democrat and Republican side that are playing roles now, that were playing roles down for these people at the top of the pyramid, are now double agents that are playing roles for us to see, so that they can take down these people and set us free.
We're asking a lot of questions here. Does that make us wrong?
No, it doesn't make us wrong. I think that it makes us right, because we have to discern this information and throw a lot of ideas out there, get them on the table, and get people to start thinking about them. Because I know, I see it in people's faces. They have questions. They're scared. People are talking about a blackout. You know, I've been hearing about that for like a week. You know, I have food and water, and I have cash just in case that the internet goes down and, you know, there's some kind of blackout or something. What I'm hearing is there's not going to be anything serious that goes on right away, but we may start getting more information, like the Hunter Biden tapes is going to be released on the internet.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to get more of that information, and we're going to try to feed it to you in a way that you decide. I'm not going to talk about it on here and try to convince you of my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, you don't want to convince anybody necessarily, do you?
No, but what I would want to convince them of is asking questions. So we're going to stick to the blackouts for a second. So
that's a veteran talking. That's a veteran spirit warrior.
Let's just talk about blackouts for a second. So last week, Pakistan had an entire country blackout, okay? And then in the same exact day, the Vatican had a blackout, okay? So with everything going on, and we're hearing about blackouts that could happen here, I just want to say that doesn't sound like a conspiracy. It sounds like a very major thing. And then one friend said, oh, there was earthquakes in Pakistan. Well, I went looking it up on every search engine I could find, and there was no earthquake in Pakistan. It was a quote-unquote engineering failure. But then in the Vatican, everyone's saying it didn't happen. Well, you know what I did? I put on the Vatican feed live, which is 24 hours a day, and it was blacked out for at least 15 hours. And then I have a friend who lives in Rome, and he said, no, it's out. And then everyone posted the next day saying, you know, when I turn nighttime, which is 6 hours ahead of here, oh, look, the lights are on. All right, they're on now, but they weren't on last night. I had the feed up. I have a verified source in Rome. And so now I go back and say, okay, scientifically thinking, did anything happen in Pakistan this year, you know, the last 6 months that would make a difference? Well, yes, Pakistan was involved in the cyber warfare of the election with some of the data. We know Italy had some of the cyber warfare. Now let's go yesterday, Secretary Pompeo had a speech, and it was it sounded like a lot of accolades and stuff, and there was some stuff in there maybe some said was a good idea, but then he had another one today. It was all about Iran. Okay, guess what happened just 2 hours at least after Iran has a blackout today? Okay, most of the whole entire country. So should I ask the question, do you think that it's possible that these blackouts are all tied together to something? And I just say, yes, we should at least be asking.
They couldn't be. No, I think that you're wrong. No, but there are people who are going to stop and tell you that. And they may not be bad people, but you have to recognize that some of the people in that thing that starts with C and ends with AL at the top of the pyramid, they used to be people called Pinkertons, and they protected the people who owned everything in the United States and the railroads. And they became our Charlie, the three-letter alphabet word that starts with Charlie, and they are the ones that were the enforcers for these people and the ones spying on us, using some of the very tools that right now are shutting down speech, were tools of this agency. And so, and I know these things to be true. So I'm not lying to you. I'm looking you in the eye and telling you these things are true. But you can verify for yourself, and I would test it, you know, take a ruler out and measure that statement and see if it's congruent. There's still stuff, a lot of stuff you can search for. And the other thing I want to mention is you should be using a browser that doesn't track you. And I don't own any stock in this company. I don't, you know, I have no interest in it, but I use something called DuckDuckGo, but there's a couple other ones where you won't leave tracks on the internet. And if you do go to a site like Google, where they're collecting information on you, before you go to that site, it'll say, hey, this site's going to collect information on you. Do you want to go there really or not? And so DuckDuckGo is a really good alternative. Do you have any other suggestions for anything like that, Michael, maybe that people can use to kind of?
I use DuckDuckGo as well, and I actually use Google on purpose to compare it. But I've also heard Bing, I think, is another one that is decent. I'm not sure about that one.
I worry a little bit about Bill Gates because as you'll learn and discover, many of the CEOs of these companies are in some way related either by marriage or by blood to the people that ran the top of the pyramid all the way down. And so the people at the top of the eye, you may think that these people started these companies from scratch and that they were such great entrepreneurs, but many times these companies were developed and then handed to these people who are trusted by the people at the top of the eye that were looking down as family members, as bloodline members, to run for them. And Microsoft is a absolutely perfect example because the Gates are related in some way to the Rockefellers and to the people who were at IBM. And so all those introductions were made. He didn't start the company necessarily from scratch. He put together an operating system he bought from somebody else and then ran the company to start building software and hiring engineers. And I don't want to take anything away from anybody, but if you investigate many of the people running our major corporations, you're going to trace them back to the people at the top of the eye. So in my opinion, we need to investigate a lot more. And, you know, would you be surprised if these people at the top of the eye, if they kind of in a hidden way owned everything and they owned $25 quadrillion worth of assets, would it be plausible for them to own a whole security agency or 10 security agencies of major countries in the world like Israel, the United States, Italy, Germany? Could they own people on the inside and have them on the payroll that were collecting information, delivering it, giving them inside information, doing their dirty work? Is that possible, Michael? Do you think that could ever be possible, that we could have a conspiracy, a tinfoil hat conspiracy where people in a government, a secret government agency that starts with C or Charlie and ends with, you know, the word for but with a different letter, you think that agency could possibly be nefarious?
I would say 100% for sure. Just look at this year. How many times did we see things happen with our own eyes on video where there was multiple videos of the same thing or multiple videos, like sometimes 3 videos of the same exact event from different perspectives, or 100 videos of very similar ones all year. And we were being told that's not what you're seeing. And it happened with COVID, kind of. It happened with the riots and all that stuff all summer. And then it's happened with the election, that we're seeing it with our own eyes. We see, and then people like you and I and our friends are going to go out and looking for every which news source that we could possibly find, independent people. There's guys out there now who are doing videos every day who have friends up very high and they're getting a little bit of information. So we take little pieces everywhere, but we did our job and we're being told those things that we saw and we're sure of, as you know, the sky is blue, is real. That's not real. So the question, going to that psyop idea again, that we're being told no. So who's doing that? It's not the newscaster. They got a job. They wound up being good at it and stood in front of a camera long enough and practiced, and they have a good job. But they gave in, and they know that that's not right what they're doing. But they got a paycheck and they're happy about that, so they're not bucking the system. But who's pulling the strings? Who's doing that? Well, I think the pyramid is kind of probably the answer.
Ultimately, it's a script that they're given, right? And you can verify that by the fact that if you go to any of the alphabet news agencies, that many times when you listen to them and go from channel to channel, they're regurgitating the exact same news and the exact same talking points on every single news channel. And so there's not an investigative operation going on there. It's a distribution operation. So it would be like the difference between going to Walmart here in Lakeland, Florida, or going to Walmart in New Jersey. You're almost going to find the same exact things in both Walmart, as opposed to going to a mom and pop store here in Lakeland and a mom and pop store in New Jersey, right? Where you live. There's going to be different things in the store that people in your area need. It's not going to be McDonald's every time, or like going to a different restaurant there and here. The menus are going to be different, right? Because people have different tastes and different demand. We keep getting fed the same stuff by the same it's seemingly competing agencies, right? Or news agencies. That's what I feel like anyway. Do you feel that?
And when you're talking about Walmart, I always want to know, why were they allowed to stay open, but my friends who own the small store over here couldn't be open? Like,
I agree.
That was upsetting to me.
Incongruency. Not congruent.
It did not align. It was not in harmony with the actual scenario.
So when you see that, you have to stop, drop, and roll and say why. You have to ask why. Don't just if it fits your narrative, like, oh, I want, like if there's a politician, especially, that's pounding the table saying that that's right, you got to stop and question that dude, especially if it seems incongruent to you. And you can say what you want about Dr. Fauci, like I think that the jury's still out on Dr. Fauci. I don't know if he's playing a part in a psyop or if he's sincere about some of the things he does and says, because as a supposed scientist that's as high up in the scientific world as he is, some of the stuff he says is awful silly to a doctor, to a medical doctor and a former scientist like me. But, I just, and so if you I want people, even if you're a plumber, to listen for congruency. And when it's not congruent, it's okay for you to say, I'm not sure, and start hunting down information, because I can't do it for you. Michael can't do it for you. Nobody's coming to save you except yourself. You have to discern. You have to stop the triggers from making you go one way or another, or requesting people to feed you. You got to pick up the breadcrumbs yourself and then find your own way out of the cave. We can give you the tools to do that, or help you with the tools, but we can't help you sort out whether this stuff is real or whether it's all psyop. Chances are it's both. Now, finally, I know we probably could talk here all night, but my general impression, having done the research here and looked at a lot of the information, but not all of it, and then having cleared any ties to any particular men, books, political parties, agendas, my heart tells me that we're still heading in the right direction and everything's going to be all right. But only if we stick together and we continue to collectively connect through that Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi connection, and we can add people to that connection as we're going along, so we have an unbreakable a powerfully unbreakable Wi-Fi connection all the way around the planet to defeat these people at the top of that pyramid, who most of which are already gone. So 12 of the top people on the pyramid, you'll understand soon, are gone. And the only people left at the bottom of the pyramid are people who don't know they're gone yet, and probably will after they see this, or they're starting to believe, because the people who are writing the information for them, the song sheets to sing from, I know for a fact many of them are gone too. And so the people in the positions that were writing for them, writing the music and writing the play, those people are no longer, they're indisposed, I'll say that. They're indisposed from the physical world right now. So they are not providing that information. And so somebody is, that's running what we're seeing right now, this movie. And I feel like it's for our benefit, but I could be wrong. And there could be wild cards out there. Like, I mean, we talked about the wild card today, about the China wild card, didn't we, Michael?
We certainly did.
How do you feel about the China wild card? Do you think do you think they're standing down, or do you think this is a potential threat that's real?
Well, I think it's real for sure, because they have influenced and flexed their muscles upon enough people who have power to pull strings to make things happen in ways that are not good for most people. And I always want to stress, whenever I'm talking about China or North Korea or Russia or any of the people that we say are they part of the evil empire or something, is that the people of these countries are really, they're people. They're nice, normal people. They just happen to be under a controlled government. But the people who are in charge over there are pretty rough. I think that we have everything that we need to neutralize them, and they may have already stepped aside and just are still playing the theater part of it. That's just which my hope is. But do I know for sure? No. I still see enough that they're still playing games for sure. It's not over, but maybe they're not as much of a threat as they could have been.
And I agree with that, and it's my belief, and it's what I manifest as well. And so people have to understand that when we live in fear, we attract the things we fear towards us, because we block everything out. Because, I've been whitewater rafting in the past many times, and kayaking, and when they teach you how to whitewater raft, the raft instructors don't tell you to paddle away from things. They tell you what to paddle towards. And that's the way our mind works. That's how we manifest things on this planet. That's how we create. We conceive of things first, and then that's a target that we head towards, and it blocks out all the noise. And that's how we get into that flow state, right, Michael? We talked about when you're real busy and you're getting put under the gun and you got a million projects. Sometimes that's the best time, because you don't have time to think about anything on the outside except that target you have to get to. And that's when you feel like you're connected totally, right? Could you agree with that in terms of creativity and purpose?
Yes, 100%. And the reason is that your focus is not on the distractions. It's focused on the goals and the tasks in order to get there. And when something comes in to distract it, what you do is you fly swat that away, because you got better things to do. So what we were talking about earlier was something I found. I found
spanking the monkey.
Yeah.
Don't let that monkey run around in your mind. Keep your mind on the goal, right?
Exactly.
You're not worried about getting a drink when the army's heading towards you.
No, nor am I about to take a solo on stage with some really badass jammers and we're in the groove. I'm not going to think about anything but jumping into that solo. It's like everything's vibing. I have to keep in with what the tribe is doing and whatever everyone's, and the energy we're all on, and the moment. And multiple times, from when I was back in architecture school and I was overloaded with work, or when I was out traveling around for this other company and they gave me a million things to do with a million different goals, tasks, and prizes involved, I'm in the moment. And when I'm in the moment, I found that I can make things happen that I couldn't other times. It's profound. When you're in the zone and you're letting the energy flow, the magic can happen, and there's nothing that can stop you at all. And it's again, magic. It's just a wonderful thing. And how do we tap into it? Practice, try, believe, have faith, put one foot in front of the other, maybe sometimes jump.
My philosophy is to never try, always do, and to never hope, always believe, and create your pictures in your mind of the world that you want to live in, of what that you want this planet to look like, of what you see as the ideal universe. And then we can work towards it together, but we can only do it together as spirits. So again, God put that tiny little spark of spirit in all of us to create and connect with each other. And by connecting to that spirit, we connect with each other, and we're stronger than any force in the universe. Doesn't that make sense?
It always makes sense.
I'm hopeful that this show, and I don't know how popular it'll be or anything, but I'm hopeful that we can get that message out and start allowing these warriors not to follow us blindly, but to use their discernment capabilities, and then also learn some of the techniques to get rid of that anxiety that they feel, that fear they feel, that emotional triggering they feel. And some of this stuff is provoked, as you know, Michael. There are people called trolls on the internet. I've heard about a couple of them. Have you heard about trolls?
I've danced with some, and it's a challenging thing to do. You're trying to create a good environment for whatever you're doing, and then these people come on and just are agitators, and they do things that are not congruent.
And I think as I've become a more veteran spirit warrior, I've learned to Socratically question these people, to try to pin them down to their beliefs before I actually shoot them down. And when I find out, I ask very respectful questions in short questions. They either spin away and go away because they don't want to tell you, because they're actually there to just stir things up and trigger your anger and your hatred, because that's how the enemy wins. That's how he disconnects our Bluetooth connection from our spirit, and then disconnects our Wi-Fi connection from each other. And so if you let them, they'll defeat you in your mind. And I had one that writes these, I write some long posts, man, but this guy writes some even longer than me. And all of it was incongruent. And then he was telling me to just give up. That he's like, this isn't a psyop. He's like, you got to prepare for the physical battle, man. The China's coming. China's not coming. Like, I know for a fact they're not coming here. They're not stupid enough to come on this land, because I can tell you, maybe all my fellow Americans haven't woken up and bonded together yet. But if an army steps on this continental soil, they're going to find out what Americans are really like. Don't you believe that?
Yeah, I mean, it's our birthright. It's our home. It's an idea that will defend. I know I'll defend it to the death without a problem. To be honest,
I agree. I'll defend it to the death as well. And I would expect that if we went to their land in a ground war, they would defend it to the death too. And so I think nuclear weapons, although you may hear scares about that in the next 10 days, I think that may only be a scare to get us locked down even further, to see some of the evidence that's going to come out, that again, you're going to have to discern what's true and what's not. But there are going to be some very ugly truths that come out. And we're going to give, I'm going to figure out a way in code to give you guys the website to go to see the Hunter Biden stuff if you wish, but I would ask you to be very careful. Number one, to get a VPN connection, so people can't trace it back to your computer, because it would be considered kitty, the letter P that starts with that ends with an N word, and you could, if you downloaded the stuff, be prosecuted for it. And so you need to be uber careful when you're looking at this stuff. And I'm not suggesting that you even go look at it. And you also have to be uber careful, because you wouldn't want your children around. And if you are very easily disturbed, my suggestion is that you don't look at it, or you wait for somebody to censor some of the pictures or the videos for you, and then you can look at it and discern it. But the things that I've seen over the past 6 months have shocked and disturbed me. And I can say that if you can't stop and take long enough to look at this and at least give it the benefit of the doubt, then you might not have that connection inside. You may start thinking about whether you belong on this planet or not, or whether you belong in this country, because this is disturbing. And for anyone not to take it seriously, for a political reason, because they believe in a candidate or a political party, or
Well, one thing I want to
union
jump in
filling the
with you on
voters.
that, and it's important, is that with the Hunter Biden one is the first one where I've never ever seen something like this. And a friend of mine was posting some stuff, and he was very careful to black things out and make sure, and they never flagged him for it or anything like that. And I said I have to see it with my own eyes, so I went to see it, and I saw enough. I said I verified that's real. But when they never deny it, they have never denied anything about that laptop. They have never denied any of any of the facts that came out about that Giuliani put out was never denied. So when you're just saying, oh, that's nothing, I'm proud of my son, this and that. Listen, Joe Biden knew his son was going down that road. And knowing his son was going down that road and not saying anything, that's a crime. Like, it's not like
Sin of omission, that's for sure. And it's a sin against humanity. It's a crime. It's literally a crime against humanity. And I mean, some of the people that are, you're going to see as things develop. And if I were a Democrat right now, and I have, I've been a Democrat and a Republican alternately, and I think I've switched back and forth a couple times, but I'm neither now. And I'm not a Trumper either. I don't believe in any man. The only man I believe in is God. And I believe he had a son who is our brother named Jesus, who walked this earth. And I believe he also has another son named Satan, who also is here in spirit and is part of the negative part of the universe. And I think he loves us all. But I think that our vibrational levels, Satan is maybe here in terms of a spirit, God is way up here. And I think that if we can connect together and boost ourselves and give ourselves a rocket booster into that Wi-Fi universe where we all connect, we can get up here somewhere, and then we can defeat our evil brother, or at least push him down, and turn this planet into the positive Garden of Eden that it could be, that it started out as. Don't you agree?
I do.
Well, I think we should probably call it a night, don't you think? Or we could be here all night. I think we did about an hour and 10 minutes, which is about what we did last time. I'm not going to edit this because I'm tired and don't have the time, and I haven't been able to sleep one wink trying to keep up with this. I don't know about you. Have you got much sleep?
No, I don't. I just I toss and turn, then I keep looking at stuff to keep myself updated.
Well, I appreciate that you're doing that, and we're going to try to provide some sources, at least some reasonably reliable sources that you can go and look to for information. I also have a website and a platform called Free and Fair, and I'll put that link for Free and Fair in the YouTube on Bryan Michaels MD. My YouTube channel is Bryan Michaels MD. I'm going to post this there, and then the link for Free and Fair will be there. And it's an aggregation site where I aggregate reports, and it's not totally complete, but there's a lot of information there that you can get that you can't get in other places, or it would take you forever to find. And it updates, I believe, is real news information, and you can debate it there. Once you become a member, you can post your opinions on it, and you can, I don't care if you argue with people, nobody's going to shame you there. It's not meant to shame people. It's not meant to shut your mouth up, to put a panty over your face so that you don't speak. It's meant so you can speak and we can debate the issue. But the only thing I'd ask you to do is not attack each other, because that only gives our evil brother more power. We want to ascend with our good brother up to our Father. And so And understand that I'm not talking about book religion. I'm not talking about necessarily scripture, because when scripture is handed down and written and rewritten by men, that also can be distorted and bastardized. And I think what we saw in Italy the other day is a perfect example of that. And more is going to come out on that, and it's going to be surprising as you come out of the cave to start learning about that. You're going to see some ugly things, and you're going to see some amazingly beautiful things when you come out of this cave, but only you can do it. I can't do it for you. Michael can't do it for you. You have to get out here, get in the game with us, and discern the information now, or else you run the risk of being left behind, or of turning our country over and having this happen again. Even after we liberate it, if we go back into our trances, into our Facebook pages, into our stupid cat videos, into our businesses online, trying to make money and spend all our time chasing after a dollar, which I don't think we're going to have to do after this is all over, by the way. There's going to be enough abundance in that 25 quadrillion pot for everybody on the planet to live a very abundant, good life, and then express themselves the way God wanted us to, with their creative ability to help their fellow man. And that's what I'm manifesting. That's the picture that I have in my mind of what's going to happen at the end of all this. And I'm not going to be cynical during it, and I'm not going to jump to conclusions until it's over. I'm going to keep that picture of that Eden in my mind in a way that tells me that as we connect together civilly and powerfully, we're gonna get to that place. And at least that's what I believe. And I'll give you the last word. What do you believe, Michael? Can we get there?
Well, I think some of us, in our own small way, are already there, and I think that it's not only possible; it's on its way. And does it happen in a month or a year or 4 years or 10 years? The day doesn't we don't know exactly. But if we all start believing it and living it now, it will happen. And um, life is glorious if you live it in a way that's free, and that it's loving and giving. In my opinion, if you go down that road and you just live
I
to
agree.
be a help to everybody else, and not worry about yourself as much in the material way, things are pretty wonderful. And it's time, I think, that the world awakens to that idea. I think that's what we were put here for. I don't think we were put here just to make things and go to sleep and then make things tomorrow and not really live.
And I think that the system was built like that by design, by those people at the top with that eye. They built a competitive pyramidal system, and then made the people at the bottom believe that they can work. If they worked as hard as they can make it up to the top of the pyramid, when in actuality, the people that they were putting in charge in the middle blocks were people that were connected to them and not necessarily deserving of the positions that they had. Those people got into the right schools for reasons, just like you saw um, all these people that paid people to get into college, into these colleges like Princeton and Columbia. That was that real, or was that Memorex? I can't remember. Was that a movie, or did those people actually go to jail for that? And was it proven?
It happened,
It
and
happened.
it is a movie.
And it is a movie, but I think, it's a movie based on actual fact. And so when we see these things and then just dismiss them and not look for a connection, then it's a problem. So I would have everybody envision this, a pyramid, and envision the people at the top, which are now gone now. But we have people at the bottom, at the foundation, and a lot of them. So there's a lot of bricks in the bottom of the foundation that still don't know the top's gone yet. And that in the next 10 days, maybe even the next month, a lot of those people will become either temporarily or permanently indisposed in the physical world. Now, their spirits will live on eternally like ours, but they may not ever get to the point where they're connected in the glory that we will be. So I'd leave everybody with that thought. I implore everybody to be curious, to be playful, to be relentless, and ultimately we'll all be triumphant if you take that attitude towards everything and live in the moment every day. And we'll be back hopefully in the next couple of days. I kind of like doing this, don't you?
A lot of fun, and I think we have a lot to talk about. So we should keep talking,
Yeah, we
and that
should.
includes everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're going to have a guest or a couple of guests with Michael and I next time. And I've invited a couple of people on. And by the way, I kind of teased everybody by talking about QAnon here. No one really knows who QAnon is, but I'm going to write it down here. I'm going to send you to the website where you can look at the intelligence drops. Now, some of you who are in the military will understand more about what these intelligence drops are and how they're written and how to interpret them. And I can't believe I said that word, so I'm going to have to blurb that out. So 17 Anon website, we're going to get you to that site so that you can examine that information for yourself and then look back in a way that helps you interpret it. And then when you look at some of the videos of some of our other information warriors that we'll introduce you to, you can know what they're referring to when they refer to this intelligence. I know there's some people who want to shame you as a conspiracy theorist to try to shout you down. That's understand that the people that are doing that are a very, very tiny group of people shouting you down and making you shamed. And so if you just realize that they're trying to project a giant shadow, like this fake shadow behind me here of a screen, that's what they're doing. Like, they make you think that they're the whole world, but they're only one of these tiny little dots back here. So don't be fooled by that. Stop and discern. When they trigger that fear, don't run to the back of the cave. When they trigger the anger, don't shout out at them. Just go ahead and investigate, because there's reasons they're doing that. They're pressing your buttons to manipulate you. They're gaslighting you. They're cajoling you. Don't let them do that. That's not how we win this war. This war is up here. Just like that guy told me, oh, it's going to be on the ground. Every war is won before the battle on the ground begins. And so even if this is China, okay, they have like a 200-year plan. We think in 4-year plans with politicians. They're thinking the long game. And so they are coming in, changing hearts and minds first. Don't let them change yours. You decide what your heart and mind believes. Anything else? I feel like I'm shouting people down here, but hope this is not meant to be pedantic at all. It's meant to let you decide and give you the power, because you have the power, but you've been led to believe you don't. You have all the power. You just have to connect together, and you'll crush any enemy on this earth and powerfully ascend to this. And I've been lucky enough to reach my spiritual heights this year, and probably I'm still a novice at it, but you're going to see some amazing things happen over the next year with your confidence, with your calmness, with your blissfulness, with your belief that everything is going to be all right, because we're eternal beings. We're not in this physical world. Our life is finite for sure. These cars we're driving around in, they're not going to last forever. So we're going to have to trade them in. But our essence, that spark of humanity in us, it lives on forever. And we're going other places out here after here. I truly believe that. So I keep saying I'm going to give you the last word. I'm going to give you one more last word, and then we're going to go, because I'm tired. What you got to say?
I was talking with my daughter before, and she was doing some dance moves with a ribbon, and she saw some of it on TV and on YouTube and whatever. And she said, I want to be perfect like that. And I said, you have to understand something, sweetie. There's no perfect. There's only chasing perfection. You can only try your best. And even when you do that one time where you said, damn, it was perfect, it still wasn't, because you can do better. So that's what I try to do every day. And I'm okay with that. I just want to keep trying. Did I do good today? Let me try a little better tomorrow. That's my last word.
I agree with that 100%. That's great. Just relentless forward action. Imperfect action is better than no action at all. And so I encourage everybody to take massively brave, fearless, imperfect action every day. Like I wouldn't be on this with Michael if we didn't overcome some fears here and get out here, because this was all last minute. Hopefully it came up on Facebook Live, because I don't even know. I'm still trying to figure out all this Zoom stuff and connecting to Facebook Live and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll get better. Hopefully we'll be able to actually provide some intelligence information for you and pictures that you can see. And we'll go through those pictures as an exercise to try to discern what's real and what's not. And I think that will be helpful for everybody. And we'll go through some of the intelligence and maybe actually bring on, I'm hoping we'll be able to bring on some of the info warriors that we have out there that are sniffing all this stuff out like rabid dogs. But there's multiple people. But if you go to a site called Brighteon.com, PatriotStreetFighter.com, there's a number of other sites. The third to last letter in the alphabet, 22.com. 22report.com. So it's the third to last letter in the alphabet, 22report.com. If you go to that, he has an excellent summary every day at around 7 o'clock that pops up, and he will go through the latest intelligence and true things. It's some opinion, it's some fact, and he will also point you to other sources as well. And I think that he has a really good handle on it. His name's Dave, and he's a dynamo. So I'm recommending that you go to that site, and I'll try to post those links or some allusion to them so I don't go to jail. Some of us are in jail. I won't mention their names here, but some of us have gone to the really bad grade first letter and the second good grade letter jail, because they don't even know what they did, because they repeated a post that they put on before. But some of us have gone to jail, so we're essentially dissidents, and so we're trying to get the information out there, but we're also trying to do it in a way that the bots that are reading these sites are flagging us, and then some of the people that are left that haven't been mopped up by the operation yet are sabotaging us. So you'll notice that a lot of your feeds are slowing down, that the internet's slowing down. All that has to do with some of these people who will be mopped up, because many of them control the infrastructure of the internet, and they control all these major websites. And so I think you're going to see over the next several days to weeks, you're going to see some of those people at least disappear. And we do have alternatives available now. There's a satellite uplink that's going to be, what I'm told is there's a satellite uplink that's going to provide communications for the United States, and that will provide internet service if it goes down. And we also have other backup platforms to go on. Michael's already on some of those. We'll give you a list of those platforms too. We have a list of them at Free and Fair. But there's like 3 other social media platforms that are totally private. They don't share your data, and they also allow you to connect with other people, since they've taken the new social media platform that starts with a P down, and and then they've also banned a bunch of people from the little birdie website. I can't remember what that's called, but it has a little bird on it. And then there's also been people banned from where this will be posted too, but we'll try. Well, not try. I said I don't try, I do. We will make sure that we post this at multiple locations that you can get to. And as long as my Facebook account is still alive, then hopefully you'll get updates. And please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe and hit the like button, because if I get 1,000 subscribers, then I can stream directly from YouTube, and then we can have a comment section where you can participate in these, and we can answer questions. And right now I can't necessarily do that well. I don't know how to do it on Facebook. So please go to my page immediately now and click the subscribe button. Bryan with a Y, Michaels, Michaels, MD, and put that in the search bar at YouTube, and then you'll see our videos pop up there. And then just hit the subscribe button and hit like for our videos, and make any comments that you want to make there as well. So, Michael, it's been a pleasure again. I'm looking forward to the next time we do this. Stay brave, stay frosty, stay safe. And if things go to blackout here tonight or tomorrow or in the next couple of days, then I'll see you on the other side.
Peace, my friend.
Peace out.